I retired my dad at 21 years old after scaling my own business to over $1 million a year. And it's thanks to this business framework that took me from someone just selling a service online, guessing how much money I'd make next month, to an actual business owner with a systemized machine working for me. And so in this video, I'm going to give you the exact framework that I'm talking about, alongside some examples of how it's worked for other service providers who use it to turn their skill and expertise into an actual business. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now it's quite cool because I actually surprised my dad on Christmas Eve, kind of as a Christmas present, where I actually officially gave him a contract, as you can see here, that allowed him to retire and kind of join me in my company more as like an operations manager. I did this through what's known as the skill to profit framework, and I've actually been using the skill to profit framework for years now, at parts unconsciously, not even realizing that I was using it, and I kind of built my own framework, but also at other parts where I've been teaching hundreds of others how to do the exact same thing. Now, before I actually used a framework, I was going from business model to business model. Everything was a guess, and I tried affiliate marketing, I tried drop shipping, I tried drop servicing, I tried a bunch of different models online, because I thought if I want to make money online, I can just copy and paste what someone else does and kind of take a piece of the pie that they're already taking. And that worked for like a tiny bit of time until it just didn't, because I wasn't good at the skill I was selling. I didn't actually have a service I was providing. It was more of a guess, and there was no kind of game plan. There was no actual path of how I was going to take what I had and actually scale it. And I mean, I'm talking about people like Iman Gadzi. I'm talking about drop shipping people like Bia Heza, people like that, right? That you learn from because you watch a YouTube video from them and you think, I'm just going to copy and paste what they do, and maybe by chance it's going to work out. And I also remember that I was the entire business 24/7. Like, if I wasn't waking up, if I wasn't clocking in, then the business wasn't growing. When you're starting off growing your business, that's going to be the case regardless, but there was no path for me to get out of that. I realized that business models were a ploy and a scheme, even after trying to launch my own business model. And so I built my own framework instead to turn any skill into profit, right? A framework where it wasn't reliant on a certain skill. It wasn't reliant on a certain like ploy of skills and skill set and skill stacking, all this kind of thing. It was a framework where you could take any skill, run it through the natural steps that you would with loads of other businesses, and actually create an entire business and empire out of it. And this whole framework allowed me to go from chaos to clarity, from ideas to reality, from skills into a business, from guesswork into actually knowing why you're doing what you're doing, and knowing what you're doing is almost guaranteed to work. And so this is the framework. Now, this looks incredibly confusing, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to break it down so that a 5-year-old can understand it. This triangle right here is the process of starting off with a skill, whether you are a videographer, whether you're an editor, whether you know a bit of automation, whether you're good at organizing, whether you're good in front of a camera, whatever it may be, and turning that skill into an empire, as you can see at the bottom here. Now, I want you to first take in this diagram because it's incredibly helpful to understand, and this is the best way that I know to kind of break it down so that, again, a 5-year-old can understand it. So at the top of this diagram, you start off with your skill, and your skill is the actual valuable thing. This is the thing that actually holds some monetary value to it. But the problem is that people don't actually know how to sell it at this level. They just have a skill that they don't actually know how to monetize, which means that although it holds all the money, it holds all the monetary value, you're not actually squeezing the money out of it because you don't know how to frame it in the right way. In order to actually go from a skill to a service that you can actually provide, like a skill is something like, I don't know, I'm a graphic designer, but a service is actually being able to provide the skill of graphic design to other people in exchange for money. So in order to go from a skill to a service, you need to do what's known as creating an offer and a transformation, creating a problem and a solution. And once you have those two things down perfect, you have a service. From a service into a business, you need to pick a market, you need to create systems, and then you have a business. And from a business into an empire, you need to build a team, and you need to do what's known as SAD, which actually breaks down into basically the idea of detaching the amount of money that you make from the time that you put in. As I said above here, I was struggling because I couldn't actually detach myself from the business, and that's why I was actually struggling to make more money than my time was worth. However, once you learn how to do the SAD, the systemizing, automation, and delegation, you learn how to actually detach that completely, which is a pretty fantastic feeling. So I'm going to break it down as simple as possible. Now, like I said, everyone starts off with a skill. You should be starting off with a skill, and your skill can literally be anything. And I don't even, I'm not even kind of exaggerating when I say this. I've worked with people in the past that have skills like working on a farm. Like, that was it. They were like, okay, I think I have a skill, so I'm not too sure. All I have is I work on a farm, I live on a farm, and that's it. But little did they know is that the skill set this person actually had is that they managed their family's finances on the farm, and they did it in a very particular and kind of creative way, where they were then able to take that skill set and also apply it to other farms in their area, and they were able to help them optimize their finances, kind of save more money, track everything in a bit more detail. So although they thought, I don't have a skill set, I just have experience, a lot of the time experience is a skill set. You just need to kind of like twist the way you see it and twist away in how you actually sell it. So the first thing you need to make sure when you have a skill is it is actually transferable. Can your skill actually be sold from one person to another? The only reason I say this really is because I also talk to a lot of people and they're like, I think I have a skill set, I'm really good at knowing what flag correlates to what country. Great, that's a cool skill set, but is it transferable? Will someone else say pay money for it? Chances are no, and therefore your skill isn't transferable. So transferable meaning that can you actually give it to somebody else and they pay you money in return? If you can, then fantastic, then that's kind of step one. Secondly, we also want to focus on high income skills. Now what I mean by that is that you have soft skills and you have kind of like high income skills. Soft skills can be things like, I don't know, I'm good at communication, I'm good at organizing, I'm good at time management and stuff like that. Those are skills for sure, but they're soft skills. They're not skills that you can actually transfer or sell to somebody else. High income skills are skills that you can actually transfer and someone will pay money for. So it's like, if you're good at organizing, cool. Are you good at automation? Are you good at like management? High income skills, it can be things like running Facebook ads. It can be things like videography. It can be things like editing, things that are actually transferable. You can give it to somebody else and they will pay you a decent amount of money for it. High income, in order for it to be high income, you just need to make sure that it can produce a result. Now what I mean by that is that you also have convenience-based skills and you have results-based skills. Convenience-based skills are skills that just provide a convenience to somebody else. Like they're not going to change their life. Maybe it saves them a bit of time or it's like a nice to have. And then results-focused skills or results-based skills are skills that actually make someone money. They are skills that produce somebody a result. Those are the skills you want to double down on. Reason being is because with results-based skills, if you can make somebody else money, chances are they're going to be willing to pay you a cut of that. If you want to make more money, all you need to do is make sure that you're making them more money than you want to make and they're going to give you a cut of that. So if you want to make 10K a month, for example, you just need to make sure that you can help someone make, for example, 100K a month. And of course, you can get a cut of that as a piece of the pie. And it's kind of like an infinite money glitch almost, because if you want to make more money, you just need to keep stacking your skills and learning more skills in order to make more money. And that's kind of all it comes down to. High income, transferable, as long as you can produce a result, then you're absolutely fine. And I really do emphasize the fact where I say like most skills, if not all skills, almost are transferable in one way or another. Almost all skills can be monetized and you can make a lot of money from them. You just obviously need to be creative in how you actually sell them. That's what I'm here to help you with. So that's the first thing. That's the kind of first point of the triangle. It is literally a skill. And of course, the last thing, which I kind of forgot to mention somehow, it solves a problem. You know, skills have to solve a problem because people are not going to be willing to pay money for it, as you can see here, if they don't actually solve a problem, because then it becomes a nicety. It becomes a nice to have. It doesn't become an essential. So if you want to make sure that your skill can make you a lot of money, you need to make sure that you are solving somebody's problem, and then people are going to be willing to pay money for the solution to their problem. And that's kind of how it works. Not only with this, across all of business. You know, again, look at everything around you, every product you have, everything you own, everything anywhere solves a problem, right? Whether it is a physical thing like my iPad or my laptop or this plant, it solves a problem, right? Or it can be virtual. It can be online, it can be information based. You know, I buy information to solve another problem that I have within my life, and the same thing goes with a skill set. Your skill set is that you can make insane coffee. Amazing. People will pay to have that skill set because it solves the problem of them only being able to make shit coffee. You know, skills, although you may not realize it, you most definitely almost have one. 90% of the time, you just need to make sure that you're actually doing the necessary work and digging and kind of like identifying work and detective work in order to actually find what your skill is. And I have plenty of videos on this channel that you can see that kind of go into how to identify your own high income skill. So I'll leave that is there, but that is the first important piece of the triangle. Your skill has to be high income, has to be transferable, has to solve a problem, and it has to produce a result. If it solves those things, fantastic. In fact, I'll also leave some resources in the link in the description how you can find your own high income skill just to kind of make your life easy. But that's the first point of the triangle, okay? And then we move on to service. Now, in order to take your skill from just a skill to a service where it actually makes money, because a skill, it can be worth something, but a service is what makes it actually make money, right? Because you are turning a skill that you have into something that is deliverable to somebody else. So in order to actually make your skill a service or turn it into a service, it has to do a few things. Number one, it has to actually achieve a transformation. Because the thing is that people pay for transformations. They don't necessarily pay for the thing you're selling them, they pay for the thing that they get as a result of buying your thing. If you look at things like, I don't know, fat loss programs or weight loss programs, people don't buy for the actual weight loss program because it's a weight loss program. They buy it because of the transformation that they're going to get, right? They're going to go, for example, from fat to fit. And that right there is the actual transformation they're paying for. They're not paying for the weight loss program, they're paying for the transformation. Same thing goes with, I don't know, to go from broke to rich, unhappy to happy. You can talk about low energy to energy. You can talk about confused to clarity. Like any kind of transformation, that is what people pay for. They pay to go from where they are now to where they want to be. And that has to be a transformation. So in order for you to have your skill and turn it into a service where you can actually monetize it, it has to create a transformation. So it's incredibly poorly made content, super low quality, super bad production, to high quality content that produces a result, right? That is a transformation. And again, once you can help somebody achieve a transformation, your life becomes easier because you can sell your skill at a much higher level because now it's a service. service, right? So that's the first thing. It has to achieve a transformation. And in fact, as part of it achieving a transformation, what you want to do is you want to create an offer around it. Now, an offer is basically just a way to kind of like almost explain your transformation in kind of like a snapshot way. So it's like, my weight loss program will take you from fat to fit in 90 days or less. That is an offer. You are offering something to someone. It's kind of like almost packaging it up, boxing it up with like a nice little bow tie on it. That creates an offer. Again, so I will help you go from fat to fit with my weight loss program in 90 days or less, or you don't pay. That is an offer. I will help you go from broke to rich with my trading course in 180 days, or I will pay you money in return. That is an offer. So you are taking a transformation and you are packaging it up, almost boxing it up, but basically allowing someone to consume it in a really simple manner, right? Because again, you don't necessarily pay for the weight loss program, you pay for the transformation. And the best way to explain what the transformation actually helps people achieve is to create an offer around it. There are loads of different structures that you can use to actually create an offer, but I will just stay simple as possible, right? So whatever your skill is, I will help someone go from only being able to make really poor, disgusting, bitter, sour coffee to making the best coffee that you've ever had in your life. And maybe you sell a training course on it, right? Where people can at home take their own coffee machine and make better coffee. But the offer there is I will help you do that, achieve that transformation without spending a fortune, without wasting loads of coffee beans because every single thing you make tastes disgusting. Like, it's packaging up what you're going to give to them in a nice like little box with a bow tie on it. That is an offer. That is what you're going for. Because again, offer or offers, it was what makes people pay money. People pay money for offers. A lot of like physical products, things that like you see around you, they don't really have an offer on them, but you subconsciously have an offer kind of in your head of what they're going to help achieve, right? So like the lamp behind me, right? The offer that you know you're buying the lamp for is to brighten up your home, to make your home look nicer, to make the decor look better. So that is the offer, without them actually having to package it up and say, here is my offer. You are buying that because of the offer that you know is going to help you achieve all the transformation. Same with a TV. You can go from bored to super entertained 24/7 with super high res colors, all this kind of stuff. That is the offer, and that's why you're buying it. Obviously, we're talking about more of like a service-based business kind of transformation here, so it's less like specific, oh, you'll just kind of get. Customers will guess what they actually want. You have to tell them what they want. You have to tell them what they can achieve with an offer. And then we move on to business, which is actually taking your service, which bearing in mind, like this alone with a service, so a skill and a service, I would argue that this can make you between like 5 to 10K a month pretty damn easily. Again, if you have a skill that's valuable and you can turn that into a service with a transformation and an offer, and obviously you can reach out to people, that is pretty solid business. The last thing in fact you need when it comes to a service is a market. Okay, or in other words, people call it a niche market, industry, whatever you want to call it. It's basically a type of person that actually needs your service more than other people. Again, if I go back to the coffee example where I'm helping people make better coffee, I'm not targeting like your average grandma who can't make good coffee. I'm not targeting like someone who's, I don't know, it doesn't even have a coffee machine. They just have a kettle and like a instant coffee beans. You know, I'm targeting someone with my market, someone that has an at-home coffee machine, someone who is passionate about coffee, someone who loves coffee. That is my market, right? That is the person that I'm targeting specifically. And the thing is that until you have a market with your service, then your skill is kind of like relevant for everybody, but also that means it's relevant for nobody. If I had a skill that I was providing and I was like, I'll just help anyone do this, I'll help anyone go from fat to fit, great, it's a service for sure. But if you're not calling out anyone specifically, you're calling out no one, right? So when you say go from fat to fit, you need to talk to someone directly. You say, I help middle-aged men go from fat to fit. I help grannies go from fat to fit. Like, you have to call out a specific type of person because then they feel heard, they feel like targeted almost, and they will buy your thing. Think of it. Think of any niche thing that you've ever bought in your life, right? Any niche thing that isn't like a common, like an iPad or a phone or whatever it may be, but something quite specific. And think of why you bought that thing. It's because you were the market of that person who would buy that thing. So again, service, once you have a transformation and you create that to an offer and you target a market, you have a service that you can sell. And again, that can very easily get you to like 5, 10K a month, no problem. And then we move on to having a business. Now, a business is kind of where it gets a bit more serious because it's more than just you now. It's more than just a service that you're selling for a couple $1,000s a month. This is something that is bigger than you. This is something that can grow beyond you. And if you want to turn your service into a business, you got to do a few things. Now, firstly, turn it into a business is you want to focus on systems. Systems is basically the idea of like taking a repeatable set of actions and automating them, right? So it's quite similar to automation, I suppose, but systems is like having a repeatable set of actions that just work on their own, or you know how to like take into account these set of actions in a very efficient kind of manner, right? And you want these within your business. Like, in order to turn your service into a business, you need systems that allow you to do that in like a super efficient, super clean manner, right? So maybe your systems can be in how you actually deliver your service. Systems can be around how you outreach your service. Systems can be around how you, I don't know, just like you sell your service. Like, the whole idea of taking a service into a business is making the process of actually making money with your skill more efficient, more effective, more seamless, less dependent on you is kind of what I'm looking for, right? So when we got up here again, as I spoke about earlier, I struggled to scale scale my business because I was the entire business. Now, that's the thing. I had a service. I didn't even have a business because I hadn't even got to the point here of where I can actually detach myself from it. So I just had a service. Now, if I had detached myself from it and I built systems around my service to turn it into a business, I would actually have a business. So although I said I couldn't detach myself from my business, I didn't even have one. I had a service I was selling, right? So again, in order to turn into a business, you need systems that allow you to deliver better, to outreach better, to sell better, to conversate better, whatever it may be. The repeatable set of actions that you know you have to deliver, you want to systemize them. If I'm talking about, for example, how you deliver your service, right? Again, going back to the coffee example, let's say that I help coffee enthusiasts make better coffee at home. How can I deliver that process of helping them do that in a super efficient and streamlined manner? Now, maybe when I had a service, the way in which I delivered that service or that skill was just by jumping on calls with people. I'd jump on calls with every single person. I would say, hey, what are you currently doing to make your coffee? All right, you have to do this differently, you have to do this differently, you have to tweak this. That was my way in which I deliver it. But actually, maybe if I want to turn it into a business, instead of doing that, I could create a course, right? Or a program, which actually allows me to deliver for as many people as possible all at once, because they go through a course. I don't have to jump on one-to-one calls with them. So again, this is a way of systemizing my delivery, making my life easier. And now it doesn't cost me time every single time I get a client. It doesn't, because if I get 10 clients, it doesn't matter. They all go through my course. If I get one client, it doesn't matter. He goes through my course. Like, it's the same delivery for every single person that comes in, right? Whether it's one person, whether it's 1,000 people. So that's the idea. Again, if you want to build a business, you have to systemize every single thing that you do. It may be how you outreach, right? Let's say with the coffee thing, when I had a service, all I was doing is I was going on Facebook groups and I was manually messaging people that were talking about coffee, right? And I was saying, hey, I actually help you make really good coffee at home. Check out my page, look at what I talk about. That was my whole thing. But actually, if I want to turn that into a business, instead of doing the manual outreach, maybe I had to automate the outreach, right? Where instead of doing what I mentioned I was doing, I have like email automation going out, right? And I can outreach to 1,000 people at once. Or I create loads of content, and in the process of creating loads of content, I get loads of interest from different people. This is the main process of actually turning yourself into a business. And I really need you to understand this. I really need you to comprehend this, because once you understand it, your life becomes 10 times easier, because it just becomes a natural thing that you integrate. Every single thing you do, you try and systemize. You try and make your own life easier. Same thing with selling, right? If every time I want to get someone onto my coffee course and I want to teach them how to make a coffee, I have to sell them manually. Okay, I can do that. But what if I had like a structured sales process that I put every single person through, that it was predictable, it was systemized, it was flawless, it was seamless? If that was the case and I could sell systemized, that would make it much easier for me to sell new people into my program. Maybe in the process of actually creating systems around how I sell, I list my coffee course on like a program like WOP or Coursera or Skillshare, whatever it may be, right? So I don't have to outreach to people to sell. I just put them on a platform and it's systemized. People buy automatically. It could be anything, right? And it's going to be relevant to your business depending on what it is that you're actually selling. But in order to build a business, you have to systemize your processes. Right, let's talk about empire now, the kind of like final piece of the puzzle. And when I say empire, I'm also not talking about like your next Google or Apple. What I'm also talking about is like actually taking a business that can like go with on you. And I'm talking about like, let's say if a business is at between 10 to 20K a month, right? That's what a business could look like. Now, if you want to turn it into an empire, let's say it's between like, I don't know, $40,000 to $50,000 a month plus, you're going to do a few different things. In order to build an empire, you need two main things. And I'll kind of go through these quickly because I understand that your attention span probably isn't the best. Number one, you need a team. And number two, SAD. As I mentioned before, you systemize, you automate, you delegate. I don't even know how you can read that. That is awful. But nonetheless, team allows you again to detach yourself from your business. You basically find people, team A players, people that can do what you do better than you do it, right? So in this case, right, I don't know, if your business, you were doing these things, you were delivering, you were outreaching, you're selling. For a team, you would find people that can deliver your service better. You'd find people that can outreach better than you can. You'd find people that can sell better than you can. So for a team, you may get closers, people that can sell your service for you. You may get, let's say, customer support people, for people to help deliver. It may be a case of where it comes to outreach, you may get a VA, it can help you do the outreach. You need a team in order to go from a business to an empire, so that the business is not you, it's bigger than you, and you're just a kind of orchestrator at the top. You're the one pulling the puppet strings, but there's people that are actually moving the pieces, and that's incredibly important. And then the systemize, automate, delegate. Again, systemizing is basically taking a repeatable set of actions and doing it in a more efficient manner. Automating is again taking a repeatable set of actions, but you not having to lift a finger in order to do those things. And for some things you can't automate, you have to systemize, but some things you can automate and you have to systemize. And then delegate is similar to building a team. Who can you pass it off to that is better at doing the thing than you are? When you can do that, then you again have an empire. And this is really what it looks like, ladies and gents. This is really it. Again, you have your skill, your service, your business, and your empire. And those are the different things that you need to know to do in order to actually kind of like transcend through those stages. Now, I also want to give you some more kind of like applicable next steps, how to actually apply this to yourself. So I'm going to give you an example with the coffee example I've been giving. Let's say that your skill, making good coffee. Now, the problem is that people get frustrated at coffee. People want to make good coffee. coffee at home, but they get frustrated because they just can't do it. They don't know how to do it. They just can't quite figure it out. That's the problem. The transformation is you're going from shit coffee to great coffee. Like the worst coffee you've ever tasted, because that's what you can make at home, to the best coffee you've ever tasted, all whilst using your same at-home machine, not having to lift an extra finger, all this kind of stuff, right? And the actual offer, you know, what you're actually helping people achieve is, like I said, I'm not going to write it in here because there's no space, but it's like, I'll help you take your awful tasting coffee, your inability to make good coffee, and I'll help you make the best coffee you've ever had in your life at home using the same at-home machine you've always been using, without spending loads of time going through like manuals and split testing and messing things up. If you don't do it within 90 days or 30 days or 2 weeks, you get your money back. Happy days, right? And that could be your offer. Now the service, turning that into a service, is firstly obviously identifying your market, and that would be, for example, coffee enthusiasts, like at-home coffee enthusiasts, people that just love that shit. I'm probably one of them, to be honest, so that's why I'm talking about this. I absolutely fucking love coffee. So that would be it, right? Coffee enthusiasts. I would buy a course like this. I can make quite good coffee, but like if I couldn't, I would buy a program like this, right? And then the delivery system, obviously getting systemized at that and obviously creating a service around that. It could be like a course and one-to-one, right? So a course and some one-to-one training for whatever reason, if they have like bespoke problems, blah, 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 right? That's the way I deliver it. And our business, maybe I build a team. So maybe I build like a sales team. Maybe I build CSM, so customer support management. So someone that can help my customers and solve their problems and stuff like that. And maybe I also hire like a ops person, someone to help with my operations of my business. And again, that's taken me out of the business like 90% of it, right? Because I don't have to sell, I don't have to deliver. There's a success manager to help deliver. I don't have to do the back end operations. There's someone doing that. Maybe all I do is make content. That's it, right? And now I have a business where I make content, someone does everything else, and I make a lot of money. That's a fucking business. That's not a skill, it's not a service, it's a business. And then the SAD, again, so this is where you want to get a bit more creative, but you know, I can systemize the process of delivery, right? Well, actually, that'll be automating. So if I were to systemize something, maybe the systemizing would be content. I build systems around how I create content to make it super efficient, super streamlined, super like flawless. And the A is automation. So maybe I automate the delivery, so turn it into a course as per to one-to-one calls. And then the delegation, again, it would be kind of like building a team, going above what I said previously. So I build a team around the sales. But you want to do this in every area of your business. Like it wouldn't just be one way in which you systemize, one way in which you automate, one way in which you delegate, systemize and automate in every way possible. But again, that helps you create an actual business. And as a result, my people, you have a fucking empire. Like this is a business and it can scale beyond you. Again, I've given you the perfect example, right? You have a skill that you thought wasn't worth anything, but actually, as long as it solves a problem and people want it, it can actually make you money. You don't have a service. You then do these following things, turn it into a business. And then from then, you keep scaling, you keep doing the things you don't need to do, and you have an empire. Like once you understand it, once it makes sense, it's like, it's a bit of like an eye opener. It's like, Jesus Christ, I can make money with any skill I have, as long as I follow this general structure. Again, going back to the triangle, as you can see here, take a screenshot of it, people, because this stuff is so incredibly important. Now, I just also want to give you like a few examples of people that it's actually worked for previously, like not just you. Marcus, for example, you know, he took the skill of copywriting he thought was pretty much worthless, turned it into $7,451 in a month. I actually have a documentary of how we did this in 71 days coming out starting from scratch, but pause that for now. That's Marcus, an example, right? You got Ned, for example. He does AI automation. Again, took the skill of, he was like interested in AI, like ChatGPT, and turned it into a business that makes him over $9,500 a month. And that's from one client. Two of those clients, it's insane. Rhino, down the bottom left here, website development, right? Signed a client for $17,500 for website development. He could build websites and he made this amount of money. Louis, again, a bit of a smaller win, but still a win nonetheless. He creates content, right? He knows how to create content, turn it into a business where he's about to leave his 9 to 5. Like that stuff is pretty impressive once you think about it. Aaron, again, 10K day. He does TikTok shop. So he was an affiliate marketer. He could sell other people's products and get a commission. And then he made $10,000 in a day because he turned it into a coaching program. Oscar, down here, bottom left. I can't even draw on this picture here, but he builds softwares. This is something he studied in school. He studied software building in school, and now he turned it into his own business where he makes over $27,000 per client. This shit works. They all followed the same framework. These are my students, but they all followed this exact framework. That is all they did. They did the exact same thing that I've just taken you through in this video, and obviously a lot more detail, but it's not hidden. It's not rocket science. It's there. It's clear. Now, all I want to leave you off with this. You could do this yourself. There is no reason why you can't do the same thing with this structure, this system, this framework, this business, or your own skill set. And after watching this, you've got everything you need to actually do it yourself. And if you do it yourself, I can guarantee that you will win. But to be honest, it will probably take you way longer to do on your own. So if you want to shortcut that process and implement this framework alongside the other systems that I've used to build a 7-figure profit business, I do want to invite you to click the first link that you see in the description. On this link, it will take you to a page where it explains what I actually have to offer and how I can help you do this yourself. Now, I don't do this that often. I don't work with that many people that often because my process of delivery is a lot of one-to-one, a lot like I'm talking to you on a call. But for the people that I do take on, we get some insane fucking results with their own skills that they have, they didn't even realize they had most of the time. But nonetheless, even if it's something you're not that interested in, I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Let me know in the comments if you did. I'll see you in the next one for another absolute fucking banger.